Hey class, 5.2 assignment part A, racialized society. So A, according to Emerson and Smith, what is a racialized society? I believe a lot of what they were speaking of in the chapters was as they were doing interviews of different people, and even within the evangelical church, both whites and blacks, they did interviews, and what was found, I guess on both sides, was that just the cultural tools and some of the racial isolation, for sure on the white evangelical side, did not allow them to fully assess why people of different races don't get along, because they don't have any context, and they don't have any viewpoints to give. They don't have any real life experience to really share why this would be a problem in our society. And so what is happening then is, although that is honest, their perspective is a powerful means to reproduce contemporary racialization. So I'm getting this from page 89 in our reading, and the sentence, because reality is socially constructed, a highly effective way to ensure the perpetuation of a racialized system is simply to deny its existence. So saying that white evangelicals are maybe being honest, but in that honesty, it's really denying the existence of racial issues within the society. Part of that has to do with when people are living in a certain community, they are like-minded and having a same viewpoint, and so sometimes that is not always helpful. There was one other sentence I wanted to read, and that was at the bottom of page 91. This large gulf in understanding is perhaps part of the race problem's core, and most certainly contributes to the entrenchment of the racialized society. So basically saying that there's a divide. White evangelicals' cultural tools and their racial isolation direct them to see the world as very individual. So saying that, yeah, there's race problems, but it's very individualized. Where black evangelicals tend to see the racial world very differently, because their cultural tools lead people in different social and geographical realities to assess the race problem in divergent and non-reconcilable ways. And so basically saying that there's a race problem that's not being reconciled, and it's very divergent, and that's the black evangelical viewpoint. And so you've got two ends of the spectrum, and so coming together on that is just not happening on a regular basis. So I'm going to move on. In what ways is claiming color blindness counterproductive? After doing the reading and doing some of the research and just my own kind of digging in, that really stood out to me as something that is never going to help us in race, helping us become more compassionate and just love people. I think it's unfair to ever say to somebody that I don't see color. To me, that's like saying I don't see part of you. And so sometimes even I don't appreciate it when people say, oh, I just don't see your gender. I just don't see that you're a woman. Now, I can take that either way, but sometimes that's offensive, because part of who I am and part of how I am wired and part of what makes me really great is my gender. Same with like part of the heritage of different cultures, and part of the African American heritage is part of what makes them great. And so saying that we don't see color is actually denying a part of self for them, and I think that's not okay. In your opinion, why does talking about race or ethnicity often become difficult and volatile? I think, one, history, for sure. So when you have a history of violence towards any race or ethnicity, that is never going to be an easy conversation, because it's rooted in a past of violent behavior and discrimination to begin with. Number two, I think it's really difficult because people's defense mechanisms, and people are going to be on the defense or they're going to be offended very easily, and that could go both ways. And so I think that's two reasons. Why is it difficult For me personally, I would say I don't want to be offensive. So I try to honor people in my language. I try to treat people with respect. When I get insecure about what I do or don't know about a certain culture, I have a very tough time openly talking about it because I feel stupid, I guess, lack of a better term. According to Emerson and Smith, in what ways does the organization and structure of the church contribute to the problem of racialization? And I would say a few of the reasons that hit home for me. One was the finding of social psychologists also help us understand how meaning and belonging are provided. People generally prefer to be with people like themselves. So from page 145, that's just natural. People are attracted to like people. You feel most comfortable with people who relate to you, who have an understanding. I married somebody that I grew up with. We did not date in high school. We dated after college. But when we started dating, there was a high sense of familiarity because we grew up in the same place. We knew each other's family and we knew the culture that we grew up in, and that was very comfortable. That was, very comfortable, very safe, very secure. And so I think all of us have a tendency to want to be around like people. And so that's what this is talking about too, is that, you know what, we are the people that we hang out with. And so as we maybe there was some talk in some of the chapters about living in a certain neighborhood to get to a certain school and be part of a certain school. Well, if you don't make a certain income, then you can't live in that neighborhood, and how the effects of that trickle down. And so that is a very, very real thing. And I just think that is obviously problematic.